Then now you may also ask as to what can one do to check whether a particular crop will have these effects. We have given a list of tests to the Engineering Engineering Approval Committee, which has come out with magazine, newspapers. I gave the list of close to 30 tests, and these tests is not only my list, the list of a large number of people around the world, and we have documentation to that effect that a large number of scientists from around the world have substantiated this list of 30 tests. That out of these 30 tests, so far on BT cotton, which is the only crop, as I said, the only GM crop that has been released, on BT brinjal, permission was given to be released, but the minister put a moratorium, that not more than half a dozen tests have actually been done. The remaining tests have not been done. Now, let me also mention, I forgot to mention when I was talking about the effect of GMOs on health, that there is a very interesting recent paper by Pradeep Verma, published in Journal of Biosciences. Pradeep Verma works at the University of Delhi, which shows that putting in the BT gene in cotton or brinjal actually affects the growth and development of the plant itself. And this would explain why those animals died when they ate the remnants of the BT cotton plant after cotton was harvested. That probably a toxin is generated in the plant, and what has happened is that when you select out the plant for commercial purposes, you have selected out those plants where the cotton yield is not affected. Cotton yield actually increases because there is no infestation with bollworm in the first few years, but you don't worry about the plant, because in the United States and elsewhere nobody looks at the plant. But in India, the cattle forage on the plant after the cotton is harvested. So I think this paper by Pradeep Verma is very interesting. That the co-author of the paper is Deepak Pental, the Vice Chancellor of the University of Delhi, extremely well known to me since the beginning of his career. And Deepak has been a protagonist of GM crops, and he was the chairman of EC2, the expert committee, EC1, expert committee 1, which led to the formation of expert committee 2, which permitted BT brinjal on 14th October 2009. And Deepak Pental has gone on record to say that that BT gene does no harm to any plant whatsoever. And he's a co-author of this paper. And you can understand what this implies. He's co-author of this paper, so when Jairam Ramesh was minister, I wrote to him. And so Jairam wrote to Deepak Pental. And Deepak Pental's reply was an amazing reply for a scientist. He didn't explain as to why. On one hand, he has been saying that the BT gene is completely harmless. On the other hand, he is a co-author of a paper which shows the gene is toxic to the plant. So either he never saw the paper and had his name on it, as does happen in our country, and is embarrassed, or that his first statement that the BT gene is harmless should have never been made by him. Anyway, that's an aside. So as I was saying that out of these 30 and odd tests, only a small number of tests have been done. And not only that, these tests have been done by the company itself. And I'll come back to that in a moment as to what does mean. But before that, let me just mention that mention to you 2 or 3 tests that should have been done, because I think that you will follow very well. One is long-term toxicity. Surely, when you are putting a new product in the market, when a new drug is put in the market, you do long-term toxicity on animals. The lifetime of a mouse or a rat lifespan is 2 years, so you give the drug for 2 years and then see. Because remember that the acute toxic symptoms appear very quickly within 90 days, but the long-term toxic symptoms don't appear within 90 days. For example, in the case of humans, how long did it take us How long does it take for cancer to appear after you start smoking? 30 years, which is half the lifespan of human being. Same is true of obesity, same is true of cardiac disorders, same is true of diabetes. Even though you may carry it's a gene that makes you susceptible to type 2 diabetes, but you don't have diabetes on day 1. You have diabetes towards the later part of your life. And therefore, we have so much of evidence that a lot of these toxic symptoms appear later in life, and therefore long-term toxic tests should have been done. Allow me to say that no GM crop that has been released anywhere in the world, long-term toxic tests have been done. Can you believe it? That we have GM soya and we have GM corn being used in the United States for so many years, more than 10 years, but not a single long-term toxic test has been done on animals. The second is slightly more technical, but I hope I can explain it to you. See, when you put in a foreign gene, in fact, when you even have normal recombination, in the normal course of breeding, there is a very small chance of mutation taking place. Mutation is a change in your genetic makeup. So very small chance that a mutation takes place. That is, this chance is slightly larger than the chance of a random mutation that occurs in all living organisms all the time. When you put in a foreign gene, the chance of such a mutation increases maybe 100-fold. We still do not know what the mechanism is, but some mechanisms are very likely to actually be involved. So when I'm putting in a gene is really a string of DNA. When it enters, when let's say foreign gene enters a bacterium or a plant, there is a mechanism in the plant or the bacterium or the living system to recognize this is foreign and breaks it up. So occasionally a whole gene gets integrated, and then you have the gene product made, and you have the genetically modified organism with the capabilities that you desire. But that gene also gets fragmented. The fragments get incorporated various parts in the DNA of the host, and that can interrupt the formation of useful proteins and can lead to formation of toxins. Now, so therefore, how do we test this? There is a technology today of proteomics which allows you to separate today 2,500 proteins in one go and determine what these proteins are and whether they are likely to be toxic or not. You can also do that today given the protein database we have. And therefore, why don't we do this technology, do this test of proteomics on GM crops? Never been done. Now, whatever have been done, and I have references to that, whatever have been done show that there are large number of changes that occur. And these experiments have been done not by people involved in GM crops, but by good scientists who simply looked at it as a good problem. But we have done no proteomics tests on BT cotton, we have done no proteomics tests on BT brinjal, and cotton we approved and brinjal we were just about to approve. Similarly, we have not looked at soil depletion. Now, as of today, the Gujarat farmers told me when I went there a couple of years ago that the land where they grew BT cotton, and they were very happy about it because it did give them increased yield, had become incapable of sustaining any other crop. The depletion of water from the soil, and also at these were irrigated areas, and also possibly trace elements, which they did not test for. So these tests have simply not been done till now. Not only that, whatever tests were done, those half a dozen tests or so, they did not use the protein as it is found in the plant. They used a surrogate protein. They used a surrogate protein that is made from genetic engineering in E. coli, which is like the native protein. Now remember that the protein in the plant is not exactly that or as a pure protein that you have in your hands. There's a bunch of a difference. In fact, one of the ways we stabilize proteins is to bind them to a matrix.